Hello and welcome to World News on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has arrived in Russia, where he will reportedly meet with Vladimir Putin later on Friday. Local media report that Witkoff is in St. Petersburg for talks with the head of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, Kirill Dmitriev. Axios reports that after the high-level meetings in Russia, Witkoff will fly to Oman, where direct U.S.-Iran discussions are scheduled for Saturday. The meeting between the U.S. envoy and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is aimed at reaching a deal over Tehran's nuclear program. Since returning to office in January, President Trump has repeatedly threatened Iran with military action if it does not agree to a deal. European countries have pledged 21 billion euros in support to Ukraine at a meeting in Brussels. Countries from the Ukraine Defence Contact Group, hosted by the UK and Germany, reiterated their support for Ukraine, despite questions about the future of US support. Our Europe correspondent, Alex Cadier, is at NATO headquarters for us. Alex, how significant is this support for Ukraine?
Well, it's one of the largest pledges we've seen from European nations in recent months. That was reiterated by Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, by John Healey, the UK defense secretary as well. They were joined by Rustem Umerov, the Ukrainian defense minister here at NATO, clearly renewing those pledges, despite questions, of course, about the US support for Ukraine before a peace deal is reached. And after a peace deal is reached. We had a sense from John Healey, the UK Defence Secretary, just in the last hour about that support. Let's have a listen to what he said.
And the new pledges of military aid announced today through the UDCG total over 21 billion euros. A record boost in military funding for Ukraine. And we're also surging that support to the frontline fight.
John Healey, they're reminding about the level of support to Ukraine expressed today by those European allies. He also made it clear that he sees Vladimir Putin as a block to peace. He said Vladimir Putin says he wants peace, but keeps firing rockets and missiles and drones at Ukraine in record numbers, targeting military and civilian infrastructure across the country, making it clear that the UK's position, and it was shared by a lot of European allies, is that Vladimir Putin does not want peace. Now, the big question looming over this meeting, looming over a meeting just a day ago here as well, is what will the US do? We understand Pete Hegseth, the US Defense Secretary, dialed in via video link to this meeting. He was supportive. He gave a supportive address to his European partners, but that does not answer a lot of questions about how sustained that US support will be before and after a peace deal.
Many thanks, Alex Cadier, reporting live from NATO headquarters. The US is looking to purchase icebreakers from Finland as it aims to boost its Arctic security operations. The Finnish Deputy Foreign Minister commented on the deal for TVP World at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. We are now joined by our correspondent in Antalya, Kazimierz Wysiak. Good afternoon, Kazimierz. What can you tell us about this business agreement?
Good afternoon. Firstly, I will apologize in advance if we lose connection, as there are so many people here, state officials and diplomats and experts alike, that we have been experiencing some connectivity issues. So if that happens, I apologize in advance. But moving on to what the Deputy Foreign Minister of Finland has said to us. We asked her about the icebreakers deal that was discussed yesterday on Thursday between the Foreign Minister of Finland, Elina Valtonen, and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington. The US had previously considered purchasing icebreakers from Finland back during Donald Trump's first term in office as President of the United States. Now, these discussions are coming back to the table as the US is looking to increase its security operations in the Arctic. Of course, you might have heard about the United States wanting to acquire Greenland also as part of its increased security operations in the Arctic. Now, this purchase of icebreakers would be the latest move in that strategy. So the Finnish Foreign Minister met with US State Secretary Marco Rubio, and the two this purchase. They said that it's possible that it will be completed soon. Finland is one of the leading countries when it comes to producing icebreakers. And I also asked the deputy Finnish minister here at Antalya, what about the tariffs imposed by the US on Finland? She said that she can't really comment whether this icebreakers deal will be part of the negotiations on tariffs, but that Finland is happy to do business with the United States, as it is one of its most important allies. Whether that will be completed and whether that will have an effect on the tariffs, we just don't know yet, but it's something to look out for sure.
Kazimierz Wyszak reporting for us from Antalya, Turkey. Many thanks. U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Brigitte Brink will be leaving her post ahead of the scheduled end of her tenure. The U.S. State Department confirmed reports of her departure late Thursday evening.
According to sources in the Trump administration, Ambassador Brink has not yet formally submitted her resignation. At the same time, over the past day, she's reportedly been making farewell calls to her colleagues. As per one unnamed senior U.S. official, her resignation stems from a mix of personal and policy concerns, including recent layoffs in the U.S. aid agency. Moreover, Brink has been stationed for the past 3 years in a war zone where diplomats serve without bringing their families along.
A Russian-American woman who was freed in a prisoner exchange has arrived in the United States. Prior to her release, she had been sentenced to 12 years in a Russian prison for donating to a Ukrainian charity.
Prior to her release, she'd been sentenced to 12 years in a Russian prison for donating to a Ukrainian charity. Ksenia Karolina is a dual citizen whom a Russian court found guilty last year of treason for donating just over $50 to a US-based charity providing humanitarian support to Kyiv. The 34-year-old ballerina was returned to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where she was met by her loved ones. Karolina was exchanged for a dual German-Russian citizen, Arthur Petrov, whom the US authorities accused of masterminding a global smuggling ring to harvest sensitive electronics for Russia's military. The exchange took place at an airport in Abu Dhabi after US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff raised her case with Vladimir Putin during a call last week.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has announced a new sanctions package targeting Russia's shadow fleet. His statement coincides with a proposed U.S. law also targeting Moscow's fleet of ships, which was introduced by a bipartisan group of senators on April 9th.
I have also instructed lawmakers to draft new Ukrainian sanctions packages. Our security services have provided appropriate justification. These will be strong sanctions targeting the shadow tanker fleet Moscow uses to finance the war, targeting war propagandists who try to weaken our defense and support Russia, and also targeting some officials, names well known to all Ukrainians who once held influence. Preparations for relevant bills are ongoing, and everything will be rolled out step by step. We are also working to synchronize these Ukrainian sanctions packages with the decisions of our partners, especially in the European Union and other key jurisdictions around the world.
Romanian Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu has called on Victor Ponta, a former Prime Minister and now a candidate in the upcoming presidential elections, to withdraw from the race. This follows Ponta's admission of having ordered the controlled flooding of several Romanian villages to save Belgrade, Serbia's capital, from being inundated. Ponta was to receive Serbian citizenship from the country's president, Aleksandar Vučić, for executing the order. The Romanian official does not deny making the decision and says that it, quote, saved thousands of lives in Serbia. Ponta is a seasoned Romanian politician, having served as prime minister from the Social Democratic Party from 2012 to 2015. The latest polls ahead of the upcoming May elections saw him taking 15% of the vote. A senior Hungarian official says the outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the northwestern part of the country might have been a, quote, biological attack. Gergely Gulyás, Hungarian Prime Minister Orbán's chief of staff, added that he couldn't rule out that the virus was produced in a laboratory, although he did not supply any evidence supporting these claims. Opposition leader Peter Magyar, however, took the government to task for not implementing sufficient disinfection measures. The disease, which is only dangerous to some groups of animals, broke out in early March for the first time in 50 years. From Hungary, it spread to Slovakia, stoking fear in Austria, which decided to close 24 border crossings with Hungary. Preventative measures have also been introduced in other countries of the region, including the Czech Republic, Poland and Estonia. Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković has urged the Serbian government to explain why it expelled 3 Croatian citizens.
The official condemned the move and said his country expects clarification over the, quote, unacceptable practice. Plenković went on to dismiss claims made by Serbia that the 3 Croatians had been interfering in Serbian internal politics. In the most recent and highly publicized case, Croatian doctor Arjen Stojanović Ivković was deemed, quote, an unacceptable security risk. She was given a week to leave the country and was barred from entering Serbia for 1 year. In the aftermath of the expulsion, the Croatian Prime Minister said he notified the European Union about the incident involving Serbia, a candidate to join the bloc. According to the Croatian government, some 32 cases of expulsions or bans on entering Serbia have been recorded in recent months.
6 people, including 3 children, were killed when a sightseeing helicopter crashed into New York's Hudson River on Thursday afternoon.
The chopper reportedly plunged into the water inverted, without a tail rotor or a main rotor blade. Emergency services sprang into action immediately after the accident, but no survivors have been found. The victims include a family of Spanish tourists, 2 adults and 3 children, as well as a 36-year-old pilot. The US National Transportation Safety Board is currently looking into the cause of the incident.
The price of gold reached record highs on Friday morning as a weak US dollar and the intensifying global trade war spurred investors to seek financial safe havens. Gold bullion hit an all-time peak of $3,219 an ounce in early trading and has gained around 5% this week. On Friday, Beijing announced an increase to tariffs on American imports to 125%, hitting back against US President Donald Trump's decision to raise duties on Chinese goods to 145%. The hike comes after the Trump administration kept the pressure on the world's second-largest economy by singling it out for an additional tariff increase, having paused most of the reciprocal duties imposed on dozens of other countries. Prince Harry visited wounded soldiers in Lviv during an unexpected visit to Ukraine on Thursday. The trip was announced by Ukrainian authorities and the prince's spokesperson late Thursday evening.
The member of the British royal family arrived in the country as part of his ongoing work with wounded veterans affected by Russia's war in Ukraine. His visit to Lviv was only announced to the public after he departed from the country. Harry visited a special center which provides free prosthetics, reconstructive surgery, and psychological support to soldiers. He became the 2nd member of the British royal family to visit Ukraine since the full-scale Russian invasion began. His aunt, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, visited the Ukrainian capital Kyiv last year.
And that wraps up World News at 2 p.m. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.